What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actors walks into what should have been a simple interview and ends up in one of the most uncomfortable live television moments ever broadcast? Today, we're breaking down the explosive confrontation where Michael Douglas completely lost his cool during what began as an ordinary appearance on The View. Before we get into this shocking exchange, make sure to subscribe and drop a comment below. What do you think about celebrity interviews that go completely off the rails? And if you're watching on your phone, hit that like button to support more unbelievable stories like this. The morning started out normally enough. Michael Douglas walked onto the View set with his trademark charm, ready to promote his latest project. He'd done hundreds of interviews over the years, smooth, gracious, effortlessly composed. But this time, something felt off. Joy Behar had that unmistakable glint in her eye, the one that longtime viewers recognize as a warning sign that things are about to get heated. "So, Michael," she began, barely letting him settle into his chair, "let's talk about your new movie. But first, I have to ask, how do you justify making millions while everyday people are struggling just to pay rent? Doesn't that kind of wealth inequality bother you?" Michael blinked, caught off guard. This wasn't exactly the soft opening he expected. "Well, Joy," he said carefully, forcing a polite smile, "that's a pretty loaded question to start with. I've worked hard for everything I've achieved, just like anyone else in their career." "Worked hard?" Joy cut in sharply, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "You mean you worked hard being born into privilege? Your father was Kirk Douglas, for crying out loud. Some of us had to claw our way up from nothing." The air in the studio shifted. The other hosts exchanged uneasy glances. This was supposed to be a friendly promo spot, not a class war debate, off camera. Michael's publicist looked ready to faint. "Joy, I think you're being unfair," Michael said, his famous composure beginning to crack. "Yes, my father was successful, but that doesn't take away from 50 years of work I've done on my own. I've earned my place in this industry." "Earned your place?" Joy let out a harsh laugh that echoed through the studio. "Please, you had doors open for you that most people could never dream of. And now you sit there in your $1,000 suit talking about hard work to people who can barely keep their lights on." Whoopi Goldberg tried to step in with a calm redirect. "Joy, maybe we should focus on Michael's new film." But Joy wasn't backing down. She raised a hand, silencing Whoopi mid-sentence. "No, I think this is important," she insisted. "Celebrities come on this show pretending they're just like everyone else when they're not. Michael, when's the last time you pumped your own gas? Or worried about how to afford groceries?" Michael's jaw tightened. You could see the frustration rising in his eyes. "Joy," he said slowly, "I don't think attacking me personally is productive. I came on your show as a courtesy to talk about a project I care about." "A courtesy?" Joy scoffed, her voice rising. "You came here to sell movie tickets and make yourself richer. Don't pretend you're doing us a favor." The tension was suffocating now. Sarah Haynes stared down at her cue cards, looking mortified. Sunny Hostin flipped nervously through her notes. The audience sat frozen in disbelief. Finally, Michael's patience snapped. "You know what, Joy?" he said, his voice cold and measured. "I've been doing interviews for decades, and I've never seen this level of unprofessionalism from a host. What exactly are you trying to accomplish here?" Joy leaned forward in her chair, a hint of a smirk on her face. "I'm trying to get honesty," she said sharply, "from someone who's spent his career pretending to be something he's not. You play working-class heroes on screen, but off-screen, you're just another entitled Hollywood elite who has no idea what real life looks like." The audience gasped. Even Whoopi froze. What was supposed to be a light-hearted morning chat had just turned into one of the most shocking live TV clashes in recent memory. That's when something changed in Michael's expression. The calm, polished mask he'd worn through countless interviews began to crack. And underneath, real anger started to show. "You want honesty, Joy?" he said, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous tone. "Fine, here's some honesty for you. I've done thousands of interviews with professionals who actually know how to do their jobs. What you're doing right now isn't journalism. It's a hit piece, disguised as an interview. Joy's eyes lit up with a spark of satisfaction. She had gotten exactly what she wanted. "Oh, so now I don't know how to do my job," she shot back. "That's rich, coming from someone who's never worked a real day in his life." Michael let out a cold, humorless laugh. "A real day? Lady, I've been working since my 20s. I've produced films, built companies, created jobs for hundreds of people. What exactly have you contributed to society, besides sitting behind that desk throwing stones at people who have actually achieved something?" The studio went silent. Even the other hosts stared in disbelief. No one, not one guest in The View's history, had ever spoken to Joy like that on live television. Behind the cameras, producers were frantically waving their arms, unsure whether to cut to commercial or let the chaos play out. Joy's face turned crimson. "How dare you question my contributions?" she snapped. "I've been a working comedian and TV host for decades. I've earned everything I have, without Daddy's help." "Working comedian?" Michael shot back, his composure now completely gone. "Is that what we're calling this? Because, from where I'm sitting, it looks more like you use your platform to bully guests who can't fight back." "Well, guess what, Joy? I'm not one of them." Whoopi Goldberg tried once again to calm the storm. "Okay, let's all just take a breath." But Michael cut her off. "No, Whoopi, I'm sorry. Your colleague here has been out of line since the second I sat down. This isn't an interview, it's an ambush." Joy wasn't backing off. If anything, she was doubling down. "An ambush? All I did was ask tough questions about your privilege. If you can't handle that, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews." "Tough questions?" Michael's voice rose, his frustration finally breaking through. "You didn't ask me about my work, my craft, or anything related to why I'm here. You went straight for personal attacks about my background. That's not tough journalism, Joy. That's just bad manners." "Bad manners?" Joy scoffed. "You want to talk about bad manners? Let's talk about the bad manners of hoarding wealth while people are sleeping on the streets. The bad manners of living in a bubble while pretending your movies are about social justice." The camera zoomed in tight, capturing every twitch of muscle, every flash of emotion. Sweat glistened on Michael's forehead. A vein pulsed visibly at Joy's temple. This wasn't television anymore. It was a full-blown verbal brawl. "You want to talk about bubbles?" Michael said, his voice steady now but colder than ever. "You sit here every day in a studio making millions yourself, and you have the nerve to lecture me about being out of touch? Tell me, Joy, when was the last time you took the subway? When was the last time you went grocery shopping yourself instead of having everything delivered to your penthouse?" Joy's mouth opened, but no words came out. She hadn't expected him to turn the tables. "That's different," she finally stammered. "I didn't inherit my career from a famous father." Michael's eyes narrowed. "No," he shot back. "You just inherited your seat on this show because you'll say whatever outrageous thing it takes to get ratings. At least I create something. My films, my productions, they employ thousands of people. They tell stories that matter. What do you create, Joy, besides division and negativity?" The audience sat frozen, not a single sound coming from the crowd. Even the camera crew had stopped moving, transfixed by what was unfolding. Then Michael stood up. The motion alone sent a shockwave through the set. It was rare, unheard of, for a guest to stand up mid-show. "You know what your problem is, Joy," he said, pointing directly at her. "You're bitter," Michael said, his voice sharp as steel. "You're sitting there taking out your frustrations on someone who's actually built something with their life. You want to talk about social responsibility? How about the responsibility of a talk show host to treat their guests with basic respect?" Joy shot up from her chair too, unwilling to let him have the upper hand. The image of the two of them standing, facing each other like boxers in a ring, was surreal for daytime television. "Don't you dare psychoanalyze me, Michael Douglas," she snapped. "I don't need life lessons from someone who's never faced a real challenge in his pampered existence." "Pampered?" Michael's voice cracked with disbelief. "I've battled throat cancer that nearly killed me. I've gone through public divorces splashed across every tabloid. I've rebuilt my career multiple times when people said I was finished. I've faced addiction in my family that would break most people. But you wouldn't know any of that, Joy, because you didn't bother to do your research. You came here to attack me. Sarah Haynes looked horrified. Sonny Hostin was scribbling notes frantically, trying to figure out how to save the segment. This was supposed to be a cheerful morning chat, but it was unraveling into a televised disaster. Joy crossed her arms with a smug smile. Oh, boo-hoo. You've had problems while living in mansions and flying private jets? Cry me a river, Michael. Some of us have real problems. Real problems? Michael's voice thundered now, echoing across the set. You think because I have money that somehow erases pain? You think wealth is some kind of shield against loss or suffering? That's the most ignorant thing I've heard all morning. And that's saying something. Through the glass wall, producers were arguing, gesturing wildly, unsure whether to cut to commercial or let the chaos continue. But no one could look away. Joy smirked. Look at you, getting all worked up because someone finally called you out on your privilege. You can't handle criticism, Michael. You've been surrounded by yes men your whole life. Michael laughed bitterly. Lady, I work in Hollywood. Trust me, there's never a shortage of people ready to tell you what they think. The difference is, most of them have the decency to wait until you're not a guest on their show. Professional courtesy? Joy shot back, her tone sharp enough to cut glass. What about the professional courtesy of admitting your privilege? Of not pretending you're some self-made man? Of being honest with people about what it's like to be rich in America? I've never lied about anything, Michael fired back. You're the one lying right now, pretending this is about social justice when it's really about tearing people down to make yourself feel powerful. Joy opened her mouth to respond, but before she could, Michael's restraint finally shattered. You know what, Joy? He shouted, his voice exploding like a volcano that had been simmering for years. I'm done. I'm absolutely done with this circus. You want to talk about real problems? Here's one. You sit in that chair every day spewing bitterness and division into the world. You thrive on conflict. You poison conversations, and then act like you're saving society. And you have the nerve to lecture me about privilege? For the first time since the segment began, Joy's smirk disappeared. Her eyes widened just slightly. The crowd could feel the shift. The confrontation had crossed from television drama into something raw, real, and unforgettable. She clearly hadn't expected Michael to go nuclear on live television. You think you're some kind of champion of the people? Michael roared, his voice echoing through the studio. You're nothing but a professional antagonist who's built a career tearing other people down. You don't create anything. You don't build anything. You don't inspire anyone. You just sit there like a vulture, feeding on controversy and conflict. How dare you? Joy started. But Michael cut her off, raising his hand. No, you've had your turn. Now it's mine. He took a step closer to the table, his tone low but deadly precise. You want to talk about earning things? I've been nominated for Academy Awards. I've won Golden Globes. I've produced films that have employed thousands of people and entertained millions. So tell me, Joy, what have you done? What's your legacy going to be? That you made people uncomfortable on daytime TV? The studio fell silent. Even the camera operators had frozen, transfixed by what was unfolding. Joy tried to recover, her voice sharp but trembling. You think your little trophies make you special? You think a few pats on the back from Hollywood give you the right? The right to what? Michael thundered, slamming his hand against the table. The right to expect basic human decency from a host? The right to promote my work without being ambushed with political nonsense? Yes, Joy, I think I have that right. Every guest on every show has that right. Whoopi Goldberg was frantically gesturing to the control room for a commercial break, but no one was moving. The producers were frozen. This was chaos, but it was ratings gold. Michael's tone shifted again, quieter now, colder, somehow more cutting. You know what your real problem is, Joy? He said, his voice dropping to a low growl. You're jealous. You're sitting here stewing in bitterness because other people have accomplished things you never could. You're angry because, after all your years on television, you'll never be remembered for anything positive. just as the woman who was cruel for sport. Joy's face flushed crimson. Whether it was anger, embarrassment, or both, no one could tell. "You don't know what you're talking about," she stammered. "I've worked harder than you ever have in your privileged life." "Worked harder?" Michael's laugh was cold, sharp, merciless. "At what? At being unpleasant? At making people feel small? Because if that's hard work, then congratulations, Joy. You're the hardest working woman in America." Sarah Haynes finally tried to intervene. "Okay, maybe we should all just take a—" "No, Sarah," Michael said firmly, turning toward her. "I appreciate it, but this needed to happen. Someone had to say it. How many guests have sat in this chair and been humiliated like this? How many have walked away feeling attacked and belittled?" Joy tried to fire back, her words shaky. "You're having a complete meltdown on live television, Michael. This is exactly the entitled behavior I was talking about." "Entitled?" Michael's voice exploded again, reverberating across the set. "You think standing up for myself is entitled? You think refusing to be your punching bag is entitled? Let me tell you what entitled is, Joy." He pointed straight at her. "Entitled is thinking you can treat people however you want just because you've got a microphone. Entitled is believing your bitterness makes you morally superior. Entitled is using outrage as a brand." The other hosts were visibly shaken. Sunny Hostin shuffled her cue cards like she was searching for a way out. No one could look away. Daytime television had never seen anything like it. Whoopi sat in stunned disbelief. This wasn't awkward TV anymore. It was raw, unfiltered human conflict unfolding live. "You want to know the truth about privilege, Joy?" Michael said, his voice booming across the studio. "You're the privileged one. You have a platform that reaches millions of people every day. And instead of using it to bring people together, to inspire them, to make their lives better, you use it to spread bitterness and division. That's not just privilege, Joy. That's abusing it." Joy tried to recover, forcing a shaky laugh. "Oh, so now I'm the villain because I asked you tough questions? Because I didn't kiss your ring like everyone else? Tough questions?" Michael laughed, but it wasn't amused. It was sharp and cutting. "You didn't ask tough questions. You attacked me. You made assumptions about my life, my family, my character. That's not journalism. That's cruelty wrapped in moral superiority." The silence that followed was deafening. You could hear the hum of the studio lights, the air conditioner, even the nervous breathing of the audience. This wasn't a talk show anymore. It was a reckoning. Michael looked around at the panel, then directly into the camera. "I came here today to talk about my work. Something I care deeply about. Something your viewers might have actually enjoyed. Instead, I've been ambushed, interrogated, and insulted. That's not entertainment. That's not information. That's just mean-spirited television." He turned toward the exit, his expression stone cold. "I've been in this business for 50 years, he said, voice steady but full of restrained fury. "And I've never witnessed such unprofessional behavior from a host. Never." Joy scrambled for one last jab. "So that's it? You're just going to walk away because things got a little heated? How mature of you, Michael." Michael stopped mid-step and slowly turned back, his eyes blazing. "Run away," he repeated, voice low but powerful. "Lady, I've faced down studio executives. I've battled cancer. I've survived public scandals and rebuilt my career from the ground up. You think a bitter talk show host is going to scare me off? Not a chance." He walked back toward the table, close enough that security at the edge of the set began to tense, ready to intervene if things went any further. "Here's what's going to happen," Michael said, his tone suddenly calm, the kind of calm that cut deeper than shouting. "I'm going to walk out of here with my dignity intact. You're going to sit there and think about how you treated someone who came here in good faith. And maybe, just maybe, you'll realize that being controversial isn't the same thing as being interesting. And being confrontational isn't the same thing as being brave." With that, he turned and walked off the set. The camera lingered on Joy's face, a mix of shock, anger, and something that looked dangerously close to shame. Finally, the producers cut to commercial, But the damage was already done. In under 15 minutes, Michael Douglas hadn't just defended himself, he'd dismantled Joy Behar's entire approach to hosting, exposing every ounce of arrogance and hostility for millions to see. And that's the story of how one of Hollywood's most respected actors completely lost it on live television. So, what do you think? Was Michael Douglas justified, or did he go too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more unbelievable celebrity moments caught on camera.